Instead of trying to change the white man and your mind, make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, we are so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have the education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionless movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Peace and Black Power family. Harlem educator, author, and activist. Brother Ajay Taimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Family, this is part of our ever-growing popular series called Hip Hop 50. As you know, a lot of people say this is the 50th birthday anniversary of hip hop. That's in dispute. That's debatable. But if people are celebrating it, we figured Harlem Liberation School needs to have a grassroots kind of movement, interviewing people, Black people, to understand, what does hip hop mean to you? What are your memories of hip hop? How has hip hop influenced you or impacted you? And even what are your critiques of hip hop, right? Kind of an oral tradition or oral history on hip hop. Today, we have a very important, not just special guest, but important for his background, for his experiences, for his contributions, for his writing and his scholarship, because he's going to weigh in very heavily, very importantly, on this issue. And we're going to be talking today about the role, the huge role that the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths has played in the founding of hip hop, the growth of hip hop, lyricism in hip hop, production in hip hop. We can go on and on. With that, I'm going to bring on my good brother, Shahid Allah. Peace, brother.
Peace. How you doing, brother Ajay?
Doing well, man. I'm blessed to be breathing and to be here with you, man. Now, people don't know that we go back to what, 86, brother Shahid?
Yes, sir.
I came to Syracuse in 86.
Absolutely.
So I think that's when I met you.
Yes, sir.
Could you, now I want to first do this. I want to just share some stuff about brother Shahid. Brother Shahid is a native of Brooklyn, New York, who grew up in Queens, New York, where he became a member of the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths. So when he speaks today, he's speaking from experience. He's an actual member of the organization. He's a graduate of Syracuse University, where he became a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and later a member of the Nation of Islam. Shahid has written and published a few books, including Thy Kingdom Come, Dispelling the Greek Myth in the Black Fraternal System, and he published a book called Take a Second Look. He was the co-founder and writer for The Word, which was the first national 5% Nation newspaper. Brother Shahid has given lectures at several universities, including Syracuse University, New York University, as we know as NYU, University of Massachusetts, and Morgan State, among others. I've known him since about 1986 at Syracuse University, and I consider him to be a leading expert on the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths and hip-hop history. And as you hear him, you're going to see this brother has some deep roots and a lot of connections in hip-hop and the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths and the Nation of Islam. And we hope to learn a little bit about all three today. And I suspect we're going to have the brother back because there's a lot of information we got going on here, family. But without further ado, I want to get back to my good brother Shahid. And I wanted to maybe start with this question. A lot of people don't even know. They hear peace, God, what's today's mathematics? You know, they hear all these things, but they don't really know what the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths is really about. So I was hoping that you could maybe tell us who created the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths and what are some of their core beliefs?
Okay. You bring up some very relevant points, and I want to be very succinct and to the point. We don't have a whole lot of time, and I'm sure there are going to be some questions. So first of all, I want to open up in the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, and I bear witness that there is one God, the Black nation, who gave birth to all civilizations on the planet. And I further bear witness that Master Fard Muhammad came from the East unto the Western Hemisphere to seek and to save us. And he implanted his wisdom and light in the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did his job and carried that light well and gave birth to a whole nation within North America and gave birth to many stars. Malcolm X, Brother Clarence 13th X, who went on to take on the name Allah, because in the Nation of Islam, in the student enrollment, the question is asked, who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic Black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. So rightfully so, we stand on our square as God. In person, not in space, but in person. And so we thank Brother Clarence for his sacrifice. We thank Brother Malcolm X for his sacrifice. And we thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for continuing to carry the torch, sitting as the father over the Nation of Islam. And the fact that we are, who was that? Sister Sledge that said, we are family. We are one nation. The 5% is very much a part of the Nation of Islam. And so with that, I just want to say, as we say among the gods, peace. Peace to everyone out there that's listening in virtual land. I can't necessarily see everybody that's listening. Peace to all of those of you who will listen to the recording, watch the recording. I thank all of you for tuning in, tapping in, as we say, in our days and times. And Brother Ajay, I just want to thank you, brother, first of all, for continuing to carry the torch, man, within the struggle. You talk about me, but let's talk about you for a quick second. There's a brother who came to Syracuse after me as an activist and a scholar within his own right. He brought up the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, didn't wince, didn't buck dance for the oppressor. No, he just owned up to it and manifested that courage. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Father Allah, as we call him among the 5%, brought the light from Temple number 7 under the administration of Malcolm X. Let's all put it in perspective. When Father Allah did what he did, he came from within the ranks of the FOI into the streets and did his job as a civilized man, which is to teach civilization to the uncivilized, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, refinement to the uncivilized, to help raise them up. And as it is now, post-pandemic, as a lot of people are saying, our youth, misled and misguided and don't really have a whole lot of love coming out of some of their homes and things of that nature, and they're acting out in the streets. Well, it was like that back in the 60s. And what he did in the New York State, tri-state area is very significant. He took the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he planted it within the youth, the Black, the Latino youth, any youth that will come to him, even white, a Caucasian youth that will come to him, he taught them and laid the base in their brain and told them that they are the greatest. And this is very significant. He taught them the keys to the lessons that even some of the elders within the temples of the Nation of Islam weren't focusing too much on. Coming out of problem number 13, the 10 numbers or the supreme mathematics, the 26 letters, the supreme alphabet. Those are the keys. The Masons within the lodges know this. They call it gematria. The fact that the letters in the Bible, the letters in the Quran are all mathematical. They have mathematical, harmonic, vibrational significance, and you can use them to decodify certain hidden things in the scriptures, certain hidden things in reality. And so when you hear saying the culture is I God, or power equality, Allah see equality, or we refer to a car, see Allah rule, what it really is a form of self-hypnosis to constantly remind us that we are aligned with the one God that is within us, that we're all a slice of a bigger piece of pie, but all of us, the goal is to be in alignment. And so, my brother, today's topic is dealing with the 5% influence on hip hop and the fact that we are among the pioneers. And we want to get into that because we have to give credit where credit is due. So I'm going to take some questions from you, brother.
Yes, sir. With that said, Brother Shahid, as you know, many people are celebrating 2023 as the 50th birthday anniversary of hip hop. I probably would debate. I would probably look at that a little differently. I think it goes back a little further, but that's neither here nor there. I've heard Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation, a lot of different organizations. I have not heard anybody say, shout out to the gods and the earths. I think people do not understand how important the 5% Nation of Gods and the Earths has been to the birth of hip hop, or even its lyricism, and so many things, production. Could you speak on that, brother? Help us basically understand.
Sure. I want to show maybe one or two pictures, if I may, brother. If everybody can see this, can you see that, brother?
Yes, sir.
In the center is the father, right here. I put my finger on him. That's the father and some of the firstborns and Justice, his right-hand man. We must remember this, brother. You know how in the African rituals and the African liberation movement in North America, we honor the ancestors. We remember them. Now, let us also point out that Clarence 13th X, otherwise known as Allah or Father Allah, was assassinated June 13th, 1969. He was a victim of J. Edgar Hoover's COINTEL program, or counterintelligence program, to the tune where they were assassinating who they thought was the Black Messiah. At that particular time, there were three major people on the list. Dr. Martin Luther King, who of course we know they assassinated him. Malcolm X, they assassinated him. And Kwame Ture, who was known then as Stokely Carmichael. But we also know that they had the father up under surveillance. I have the FBI files. Being a writer, you keep archives, and they definitely had him up under surveillance and were very concerned about influence. And so when you look at hip hop and you look at the cultivation of it, the father was assassinated in June of 1969. By 71, we call him born Allah born. He's at a Pelon. One thing I want to make clear, I'm going to say certain things. Some of us don't know the vernacular or the dialect, the language of the 5%. We refer to the boroughs by righteous names. The Bronx is known as Pelon. Queens was once known as the Desert. Once it got light and money started coming out of Queens from hip hop and other things going on in the streets, was also known as the Oasis. Brooklyn is known as Medina or Cold Medina, however you want to, refer to it. Staten Island is Shylin. in Harlem, of course, where
Mecca.
it first sprung up in the streets, is referred to as the Mecca, where we in the lessons we say that's the root of civilization. So when the gods begin to do a program in Harlem called the Show and Prove, have you ever heard of that, Brother IJ?
I have.
Okay, so the Show and Prove started in 1971. And it was basically designed for the young gods and earths to exhibit their skills. And some of the elder gods would come and teach karate. And it was a very holistic and cultural type of thing. It remind you somewhat of like a Kwanzaa event, but only it happened in June. Okay. And so at that time, the young gods would come for the brothers and sisters. And imagine this, imagine 1,000 or 2,000 brothers and sisters standing up there or sitting there watching the young gods and earth speak. And some of them would come, sing a song or, perform or what have you. And at that time, you have to remember that we had James Brown on the scene. Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. The whole Black Power movement was going on. The Last Poets, who were heavily influenced by Islam, were doing their thing. And the Last Poets, when you listen to their music, they're coming out of the 60s into the 70s. They remind you of some of our rappers like X-Clan. You and I spoke about that before. Sonny Carson, his son started X-Clan with Paradise. And I believe Sonny Carson's son has passed on, going to the ancestral realm. But all of that was a heavy influence on the youth. So it was around that time, 71, 72, that young brothers and sisters in the boroughs of New York begin to have these parties where they would take a record and take the break beat and keep, looping it. And then when they got a mixer, this is where mixing and scratching, you had Grand Wizard Theodore and Grandmaster Flowers before Grandmaster Flash. Kool Herc was in the Bronx doing his thing. In Brooklyn, and I spoke to this brother last night, Fly Ty Williams, who was at HU Boys. He told me last night, I interviewed him last night for the final call, that they were doing their thing in Brooklyn in 1971. And Fly Ty put Big Daddy Kane on. Fly Ty put, certain individuals on. The guards Shabazz and Mel Crum were there last night to help bring him on with Ron Lawrence and Hakeem Green, who was also guard body. And so the gods have always been involved in hip hop, I would say, from the very beginning. Even Kool Herc admits that some of the guards were doing security for him when he was doing his thing and expanding the hip hop culture, which let us point out that it wasn't even called hip hop back in 71 and 72, 73. It was just, let's have a party, get together. Somebody eventually got on the mic, started doing their thing. It was in the early 80s that it began to be called hip hop. But within the scope of that 50, let's look at the mathematics. 5 in supreme mathematics is power. 0 is a cipher, a person, place, or thing. So when you put power by a cipher, a person, place, a thing, that becomes a very powerful thing. And so, although there are disagreements as to exactly when hip hop started, one thing is for sure. We know that the gods and earths infused a whole lot of power into the cipher, which is known as hip hop. And those 5 elements of hip hop, Brother IJ, help me with this, is DJing, MCing or rhyming, they call it rapping now, graffiti, and what else? What are the other 2? Knowledge, and what's the other one? Come on, man. Breakdancing. What's hip hop without b-boying, right?
That's
so
right.
5 elements next to a cipher. That's 50. Let's talk about 50. And Brother Flytie and I talked about this briefly last night. The original 50 Cent isn't Curtis Jackson from Queens. He got his swagger, his hip hop and his street swagger and his style from the god Shamik, otherwise known as Kelvin Martin from the Albany Project, who was running with Supreme Magnetic and that whole crew. One of the original Supreme teams, because you know there's a Supreme team out of South Jamaica, and Nas did a documentary talking about that Supreme team. Kenneth McGriff Supreme, and Prince, his nephew Prince, and Fat Cat and all. We won't go too far into that. But even that Supreme team set influenced hip hop. They influenced a lot of the brothers that rose up out of Queens, LL Cool J, and all the brothers that rose up out of Queens, the brothers that rose up out of Hollis, Russell Simmons, Run DMC. The list goes on and on. Now, Rakim, interestingly, the god Rakim, who was from Long Island, like the Wyandanch area, he was influenced by the original Supreme team, Supreme Magnetic and 50 Cent in them. He ran with them. Eric B ran with them. And when you look on the back of the Paid in Full album, which I think I actually have it. Remember this?
Yes, sir.
Now on the back, if you zoom in on that picture down there, you may not be able to see it, but anybody who has some wax at home, you're going to see Cool G Rap, Supreme Magnetics, a relative of his, the original 50 Cent. But if you don't know who's who, and you don't know the history, and you don't know the influence of the gods within hip-hop, you really need to start learning, because I'm going to run a little list here. Bahamadia from Philly, one of the first herbs, and she's still nice on the mic. All right? Diggable Planet. Do we remember them?
Yes, sir.
Four Righteous Teachers. Lakim Shabazz. I have his album. Everybody, do you remember Lakim Shabazz?
Yes, sir.
Okay. King Son. Remember King Son?
King Son.
Come on, man. He made Proud to Be Black. That's Rakim and Eric B once again. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I'm getting a little excited. Four Righteous Teachers.
Yes, sir.
Wise Intelligent. They made so many powerful records. Hey, man.
Now, Brother Shahid, wait 1 second. Poor Righteous Teachers is part of the lexicon in the lessons. Could you explain that for the family watching?
Who is the lesson is the 16th question and answer and lost found Muslim lesson number 2. And the question is asked, who is the 5% of this poor part of the planet Earth? It's old school. You put me on my square, man, asking me questions. And the response, the question was asked by Master Fard Muhammad. This was an exam that was given to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad prior to Master Fard Muhammad's departure. So this exam was given in between like 1933 and 1934. And the question is, who is the 5% of this poor part of the planet Earth? And it starts out by saying they are the poor, righteous teachers who do not believe in the teachings of the 10%, is all wise and righteous, and teach that the true and living God is the supreme being, black man of Asia, who teaches freedom, justice, and equality to the human families of the planet Earth, otherwise known as Muslims and Muslim sons. Now, Muslim son is otherwise known as a Shriner or a very high degree Mason. So basically what the lesson is telling you is that even in the secret chambers of Masonry, they know that man is God. It was a secret. It is no longer a secret. Even Jesus told you that God standeth in the circle of the righteous. He judgeth among the gods. He said it in several verses within the Bible, and within Christendom, the Christians hold him in high reverence and say that he's the Son of God and he's God in person. But what they're not taught, because some of us have been misled in the seminary to think that, well, that man was God, but you're not. No, he's a sign for all of us to shine a light like him. It says in Philippians, let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. So it's telling you that you need to shine your light just like this brother did. And the gods and earths have continued to shine their light on the mic. There are a lot of brothers and sisters that are in hip hop, but the gods shine brightly. I could run the roll call. Big Daddy Kane, when he did Young, Gifted, and Black, when he did Raw, he's still out there doing it. He's one of the guys that performs to a band now, which is kind of hot. Jay-Z came out at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Fest and openly, exposed himself as being God body. He had the universal flag on. He put it around the neck of Jay Electronica, who was also nice on the mic. The roll call in dealing with the 5% influence in hip hop is kind of ill, man. Ill in the sense that it's a good thing. It's a very powerful thing. Lord Jamar, the Brand Nubians. Matter of fact, I think all of the Brand Nubians are righteous, man.
Yeah. And you got Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
Rhymes' righteous name?
Say again?
Do you know Busta Rhymes' righteous name?
I do not.
Taheem.
Taheem?
Taheem. T-A.
Oh, Taheem.
I-M. Now, he used to be slim, like me. I'm not as slim as I used to be, but Busta used to be like $150, man. Back I ran into him at a gas station in Queens one time, and he was shouting me out, and this is when he was on the come up. But this brother, of course, he's very nice on the mic. And he talked about how he used to work his way in the studios, invite himself to a recording session of another artist and claim that he was supposed to be there. But he was using his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which we are taught within our lessons, to work his way up into the industry. And he stayed in the square. He still, professes to be righteous. He's still carrying out his duty as a civilized man. As a matter of fact, he made a nice album a couple of years ago, LE2, Extinction Level Event, which is very nice. He had a track on there dedicated to Master Fard Muhammad. He had another one where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was teaching. He had another one on there, brother, I forget the name of it, with Kendrick Lamar, and it's based in an old Michael Jackson track, man. It's powerful. So Busta Rhymes, he is definitely one of the pioneers of hip hop. And I want to touch on that word for a second, if I may, brother. A pioneer is someone who breaks down the underbrush to establish a field of endeavor, or in territorial realms, a pioneer, like they claim individuals came from Europe and just set up America, and here we are today. Well, we know that's not the truth. The Native Americans were here. They used our ancestors from the motherland, put us in slavery and bondage for 3 centuries, and never paid us a dime for our labor. But pioneers in hip hop basically helped to build it from the ground up. And this is what we really, really have to get into and remember: our brothers and sisters who helped to lay the foundation, and the fact that the 5% were very instrumental. This cannot be forgotten. The Supreme Team, who had one of the first radio stations, it was on WLIB, were one of the first brothers to sing the Enlightener, Peace of Law and Justice, right? To play conscious records, to scratch records up and rhyme in person over the radio. The Supreme Team, who can forget them? They made Buffalo Girls and world's famous Supreme Team. We can't forget See Allah, the superstar. Just Allah, the superstar. See Divine, the mastermind. We can't forget those brothers, man. We cannot forget them. They were on the radio the late 70s, early 80s, and they blazed the path. I know I danced to a whole lot of their music when I was in Syracuse from 82 to 86. We can't forget them. We can't forget Big Daddy Kane. We can't forget Just Ice, who didn't make it as big as maybe a Big Daddy Kane or a Jay-Z or Busta Rhymes, but nevertheless was very powerful a very powerful lyricist. We can't forget brothers like that. We can't forget Freedom Williams. You see that picture?
Oh, really? Get out of here.
We can't forget the God, scientific freedom born. A lot of
You
people
know what about now? I'm assuming Knowledge Reigns Supreme was the God body, KRS-One, right?
KRS-One is a conscious brother. I won't necessarily say he's God body, though he does acknowledge he may not necessarily have the same school of thought or curriculum. With the 5% curriculum of knowledge is based in the supreme wisdom lessons from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, which came from Master Farad Muhammad. Now you have a lot of brothers that were around the gods that were heavily influenced, and I would say that Chris Parker or KRS-One definitely one of those, and his hype man who I was with last night, Hakeem Green, has knowledge itself. So he can stay in a circle, man. He's in a circle like AZ Faison is. Let's go back to that lesson. Who was the 5% of this poor part of the planet Earth? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that society in general, putting no color on it, is in 3 divisions. Like the embryo.
Listen up, family. Listen up.
Like the embryo developing the womb of woman is developing in 3 layers: endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. 3. Like the Trinity mentioned in the Bible, which has been a little distorted. The cohesion of life, matter, and the interaction of the 2 is what produces soul. Life, matter, and the interaction of the 2. Or like we used to say, coming up in the 5%, Islam is I stimulate life and matter. In other words, I come into a room, I come into a cipher, I'm not in inertia. My mind, my thought is traveling at 24 billion miles per second. Like those 3 stages of darkness that the first God who created the whole universe, coming out of those 3 stages of darkness, all traveling at 24 billion miles per second. That's our thought. It still travels at that level. So knowledge, wisdom, and understanding over the mic is otherwise known as what? Hip hop. In other words, it's making you move, right? Rakim said what and paid him for? What did he say, man? Move the crowd.
Yes,
right?
sir.
First of all, what? Come on, man. I'm testing you on the lyrics.
Oh, man, I'm rusty, brother.
Don't mistake out, man. So listen, it's all good, bro. It's all good. Let's stay focused, man. I'm getting real excited. But the bottom line is the gods help to lay the foundation of hip hop and firmly rooted, because what happened as hip hop began to expand, certain adversarial elements looked at hip hop and said, hold on, wait a minute. They teaching our baby, they teaching the youth, and they rising up. And they're becoming aware of the oppressive mechanisms within the system. So, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, there was a secret meeting in hip hop. And there were certain individuals in that meeting that came together and decided that they were going to strip hip hop and twist it and change it around and add in certain elements within it to diffuse its influence. And so we went from hearing positive records like Rakim saying move the crowd and wearing his universal flag and his kufi in a video to seeing a whole lot of women shake their butts with no clothes on and all kind of divisive and violent lyrics. We went from hearing self-destruction, you're headed for self-destruction, to what's the young lady's name? Sexy Dead or Sexy Dread? What's her
Sexy
name?
Red, I think.
Sexy Red. Okay. I'm not putting her down. No disrespect, but we can't compare her to Queen Latifah, right? Who rapped about, I just saw her at the Capital One Center last week. She said, UNITY, right? She did Hip House. Let's go back to Freedom. Freedom helped to create another realm of hip hop. He is a pioneer. Hip house didn't exist, brother. It was.
I didn't know that. That I didn't know.
Listen, man. The gods were creators and continue to be creators. I was in the studio with RZA and Divine Melquan back in the day when RZA was a solo artist and he was known as Prince Rakeem. And what brother Fly Ty Williams reminded me last night, because we were talking about it. I said, "Were you the one? Did you sign GZA, otherwise known as the Genius, who's a part of Wu-Tang Clan now? You signed him to Cold Chillin'?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "You didn't do the record when he was trying to be an R&B singer, singing Come Do Me." He said, "Yeah, that was me." I was like, wow, man. We were laughing at that record. And I wasn't taking RZA seriously in the studio in downtown Manhattan because he was up and coming and I was working on my books and things of that nature. So we were all very focused. But I moved out of New York City in 93 and went down to the Atlanta area. And one of the Earths sent me, Mecca C. Asia, she sent me an audio tape copy. You know how we used to tape stuff and give it to people. Some brothers on the streets used to sell the audio tapes. She sent me a copy of 36 Chambers, which, by the way, they're in their 30th anniversary. And I listened to it. I was like, man, who is this? She said, that's RZA, otherwise known as Prince Rakeem and Method Man and Raekwon. I was like, what? And the mentor, may Allah be pleased with him, of Wu-Tang Clan is Freedom. Freedom, otherwise known as Papa Wu, was one of the elders among the 5%, going all the way back to the early 70s. Man, he was influenced by Minister Allah, who was one of the reasons why Brooklyn is known not just as Medina, but Cold Medina, because of his street swagger. You know, and so there's so much in hip hop, so much the culture, the clothing. Shabazz Brothers Urban Wear. I was just talking to Shabazz earlier today. I was with him last night. They hit the clothing aspect of hip hop, because when you talk about hip hop, remember the rappers had on, it wasn't just the dope rope chains, but they had on the Bell's Fashion Wear. What's the other brother's name out of Harlem? That's a designer, man.
Dapper Dan.
Dapper Dan, but Dapper Dan was preceded by Bell's Fashion and Shabazz Brothers, and they were selling a lot of the, sexy, extravagant clothes to the rappers because they had the money to pay for it, right? And that began to influence society, it began to influence our youth, and you see it today in our youth. But what our youth don't know is the history behind where that came from. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed the Green-Eyed Genie. Do you know who he is?
No, sir.
He's from the Bronx, man. He's from the early 70s, man. He's from the realm of the gods and the realm of the Black Spades, which Africa Bambaataa came up out of, and formed Zulu Nation. And Zulu Nation began to teach the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to the street organizations. Islam, the 5%, Zulu Nation helped to reform the madness in the streets. Remember, we had the Green Avenue Jolly Stompers, the Black Spades, the Savage Nomads, the Seven Crowns, the
Savage Skulls.
Gangs running around in New York City, and they outnumbered the police, and they couldn't control them. What put that fire out? Islam. It was the FOI from the mosque and the 5% who civilized the streets of New York City. And the same thing has to happen again today. We got our brother Abdul Malik on the West Coast, who has good relations with the street organizations. And when Nipsey Hussle was murdered, who put that fire out? Brother Abdul Malik, man. And
wait a minute, brother Shahid. I got a question for you now from
Okay.
the audience. I asked you this, but this brother's asking as well. I'm gonna put it up. Brother Michael Muhammad, peace to the brother. He says, can it actually be said that the Nation of Islam is the foundation of the B-boy stance? The use of terms such as knowledge of self, word is born. I'm gonna add to that peace. We all say peace. Where did that come from? Right? So how would you address that?
Yes. Standing in your square like this absolutely came from the Nation of Islam. Absolutely. And I'm going to say this because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan just turned 90. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, all stars, listen to me carefully, all stars are made at a 90-degree angle to the earth. Well, what does that mean? Well, when you stand up straight in your square with your hands crossed, that's 90 degrees. You are perpendicular to the earth, upright at 90 degrees and standing in your square. That's Masonic language to the wise, right? And that's a sign for the wise. And so, of course, the stance, you could say, you could attribute it to the FOI, but you can also say that the gods, that's one of their favorite stances.
Yeah, that's why I saw it. I saw the God body of Harlem always saying it like that. Yes, sir.
You see? You see it? Look.
Yes, sir.
Look at the God Freedom. This is an old picture. Freedom Williams, Just Ice, Divine Melquan, Shabazz. Look how Freedom's standing.
Mm-hmm.
But peace is not the word to play. Who said that? Main source. Mike. You look at Mikey D today. Mikey D is wearing a hat like this, #1 draft pick. Where does that come from? That comes from the God Supreme, Haitian Supreme, from Rosedale, Queens, who influenced Curtis Jackson, who was a mentor to Curtis Jackson. Supreme, not Supreme from South Jamaica. This is Cold Nile Seed, Haitian Supreme, is a force to be reckoned with within hip hop too. But he's in the backdrop. He put Tony Yayo on the map. He helped put 50 Cent on the map. See, there's a lot of brothers and sisters that heavily contributed to this culture called hip hop. Let me do the roll call real quick, just from a cultural perspective. In 1987, I was 22 years old, and I was rolling with some of the older guards. We started a newspaper called The Word, which ran for about 2 years. I was a marketing director, but of course, we did everything. It didn't matter what our title was. And we did a 4-part series on how the 5% started, and we call it The Greatest Story Never Told. Now, Lord Jamar did a 5% album, and one of the cuts, one of the tracks on that album is The Greatest Story Never Told. People listen to that record to this day, but they don't realize, I'm looking for, oh, here it is. They don't realize that it comes from this newspaper, the first national newspaper of the gods and earths, The Word. And it comes from that story that we did. You see, you have to, at some point, cross-reference, like one of the gods, True Islam, aka Dr. Wesley Muhammad. He's on the Shura Council within the Nation of Islam and helps provide guidance for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to the Nation of Islam. And that brother's a scholar. He has his PhD in Islamic studies. Man, that brother's written so many books. He's powerful. But one of the things that he continues to do is to provide references, tangible references that you could cross-reference. You could say, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, that's where that came from. So getting back to the greeting piece, the Mason, when he climbs up the ladder, he gets to a certain degree, he has the option of becoming what's called a Muslim Shriner. And they wear the fez, the red fez with the crescent and the star and the sword over it. And that has some meaning that I really won't go too much into right now. I'll let them tell you that. But when they get to that point, the greeting is Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you, right? So they know that a wise man, a learned man, among the wise and the learned, the greeting is peace. What did Jesus say? Assalamu alaikum or shalom alaikum. He didn't speak English. Jesus spoke Aramaic, Arabic, and Hebrew, and he wasn't even called Jesus. He was called Isa or Yeshua in Hebrew. So when we get into the science of language and mathematics, those are the keys. Now, brother, I don't know where we are with time, and I know there might be some other questions out there, but
I want to, brother Shahid, I want to pivot to a comment that a brother on here made, Clifton T. Britt Jr. He's giving you your flowers. He's saying he says he's thanking my queen. My queen welcomed him to the thread. He says,
Okay.
"Thank you, Brenda. Shahid has personally educated me of academics, history, and life in general." So he's shouting you out for being a resource to him.
I'm gonna send love back to my chapter, bro, man. Love you much, brother. I appreciate you. I also want to shout out my fraternity brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, especially Kappa chapter, who brought me into the realm of Omega. And one of the brothers in particular, I will show you a picture of him, Divine. He's in the center. Can you see that picture?
Yes.
Okay, Divine is one of the gods who became FOI while I was an undergrad and helped keep me balanced and centered. And I would say the Divine is one of the brothers that it was because of him and Melaquan that I began to write books and things like that when I graduated, because I was on a mission to teach. They made sure that I read all the books of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When I was pledging, they came around. Whatever the brothers might have been doing to us at the time, the brothers stopped. And I realized how much respect and love they continue to have for brothers. And my brother Clifton, man, he's a legend within his own right. That's for another show, for another time. But I thank you for conveying that message, brother. Any other questions?
Yeah, I myself and my queen have solicited people. If you have questions or comments, you have to type them in so we can see them, family. We will certainly direct them to our brother Shahid. In the meantime, I have a question for you, brother Shahid. When I think about Rakim Allah, Big Daddy Kane, Just Ice, Busta Rhymes, just to name a few, Lord Jamal, and I think of the intricate wordplay, the very metaphorical lyrics, the lyricism. I'm wondering why the God Body seem to have they all seem to have that in common. What was it about what you were taught, what you believed, that accounts for being so lyrical?
That's an excellent question, brother. When you look at Islamic history in general, it's going back. I will say this, that Islam is not just limited to going back 1,400 years. Islam means peace, and it goes all the way back 78 trillion years. But when you look at the history of the Prophet Muhammad, there were poets during that time. Some people who were ignorant called the Prophet Muhammad a poet because they thought that the revelation that he was receiving was just poetry. But a lot of your Sufi Muslims into chanting, raising themselves up on a spiritual level and performing the dances, the whirling dances and things of that nature. So that very much is a part of Islamic culture. And so when the gods begin to do it with the wordplay and infusing the mathematics and the teachings into it, they learned that from problem number 13 in the problem book that Master Prophet Muhammad gave to Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Father Allah just brought that to the young brothers and sisters, taught us how to break words down, taught us the root of a word. I have on an orange shirt. It ain't just about the fact that I'm an orange man. I went to Syracuse University, but anybody know anything about the chakras? Well, the root chakra is what keeps you grounded. It keeps you balanced. It helps you keep your mental wellness intact. All right. We have within our aura 3 fields of energy that intersect. And there's a medical symbol. It's a staff with what looks like snakes going up to the top. So that root chakra, just go on and Google it and study it, is to keep us grounded. And within that, the etymological root of words is significant because it helps to open our minds up to understand what we're dealing with. So when you hear the gods doing the wordplay on a rap record, it's about opening you up. That was one of the terms back in the day, man, in hip hop culture. Get open. right? We don't want a closed-minded individual. We want a what? Open-minded individual. We don't want you on the surface. We want you below the surface, because at the root is what? Oneness. And so when you hear the gods flowing, hitting the mathematics, fusing words together, doing the word play, it's not just to hypnotize you, but it's to teach you and to bring you to the root and to let you know that at the root is oneness. Matter of fact, there's a hip hop group called The Roots out of Philly, right? So, you know, Diggable Planets. Well, Diggable Planets, are they from Philly?
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I believe so. Somebody can check that while we're talking. But
I want to add on to something you said, Shahid. For those of you watching, also, what he's saying about Islam is very important. That Islam, as a religious culture, taught literacy. So it was expected that you would read the Quran, that you would understand the Quran, and some say even that you would learn Arabic. But the point is, if you want to get a sense of what I'm saying, in the Timbuktu or University of Sankore, there are 70,000 manuscripts right now that you could read if you understood Arabic, that our people wrote. They were highly literate. So if you're in a culture that teaches knowledge itself, that you got to read and learn, that learning makes you cool, learning makes you all wise, then those people are going to be the people that's going to be in that dictionary, like Brother Shahid is pointing to. They're going to be able to tell you to break down the words. So when I look at all these people, I'm like, man, these are people that are reading, right? I went to high school. All the guys was sharp, man. They were sharp. They were reading. They was in them books, man.
Reading,
so that's peace.
Reading is fundamental. Remember the commercial? Riff. Reading is fundamental. But this is why I started to write books. I started to do documentaries. Can you see that, brother?
Yes, sir.
This is the one I did with AZ Faison, Planet Rock.
That was an excellent one right there.
Yes, Sister Iman helped me with that. She's in the nation. Did this one, part 1, Rich Porter, Cold World, Stop the Killing. Part 2, Rich Porter, Cold World, Stop the Killing. You create a record with your actions in life. Why not write? Why not read? Why not take it to the highest degree? We have gods in earth who were principles, earthly paradise, who was a law of mathematics earth originally. He was unfortunately murdered in 1985 in Roy Wilkins Park. Earthly paradise, it didn't stop her. She became a principal. She's one of the most powerful principals in New York City. The god Shanti became one of the most powerful principals in New York City. He has his doctorate in education. He was once the principal down here at Dunbar High School, man. Beloved, the god Beloved, who I did the word with, he has his PhD in engineering. See, you know, some people have it twisted. They look at the gods, they see the universal flag, they see Islam. It's like they stop because, you know, society, unfortunately, some aspects of society, I won't say all, but some aspects of society seek to cover, to hide the presence of the gods, right? Or they say, oh, they're bad people. But no, we are very educated and enlightened individuals. Yeah, you have some criminals among us, but that's with everything. But Beloved, PhD in engineering, helping to redesign the plot of land, the law school in Harlem, where we still only pay $1 per year, and which was established by Clarence 13-Dex, otherwise known as Father Allah, through the Mayor Lindsay administration. He used his diplomacy to secure a street academy that we only still pay $1 per year for.
Amazing.
Yeah. In a time where what is rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn? Like $5,000. So with just Islam, man, enlightens, it educates, it uplifts. I'm not putting down any other culture. And one thing I want to distinguish is we teach Islam not as a religion, but as a way of life. Because God doesn't have a per se religion or religion. He has a way of, and we have a way of life. This is about godhood. This is about developing a community of gods. And so when you hear or when you read in the Bible about Jabril or Gabriel blowing the trumpet, or Michael blowing the trumpet, what do you think the gods are doing over the airwaves? It's the same thing, right? That's light.
Mm-hmm.
How fast does light travel?
Very.
Okay. Brother, you might have to report to the parliament, man. But listen.
I knew that was going to get you.
Yeah, you came back. You got to come back, man.
Brother Shahid, I got a question for you from
Go
Brother
ahead.
Clifton T. Britt. He asked, can you explain the use of the number 7 on patches, etc., that brothers would adorn in the era that defines the origin of hip-hop culture? How do you discern between the 7% and the 5%?
Okay, it's just the 7 is God's number. It's the number of perfection. The 7 chakras, the crown chakra, which is purple, right? And in colors, in the color scheme at. Go back to the Google chakras, Brother Cliff, and also 7 planes of energy. Those are dealing with the planes of energy, the stages of the mind, the infinity mind, the infinity consciousness versus unconsciousness, going all the way up the stage of the ladder. It didn't have to do with the percentiles. It had to do with frequencies and magnification of consciousness. That's what that 7, which is on the universal flag, which is over the crescent and the star. And while I'm at it, let me show you who made that flag that Jay-Z wears. Universal Shamgar. May Allah be pleased with him. Can you see that?
Is that's Shamgar, the basketball legend? That's his father?
No. This is Universal Shamgar, who designed the universal flag that you see Jay-Z wearing and Jay Electronica wearing. He designed that flag. He has since returned to the essence. That's what we refer to somebody returning to Allah, passing away. Back maybe like 20 years ago, he passed away. But he's the one to design that. And so dealing with that 7, I'm distinguishing the 7, the number 7, from the percentile, the 5%. There's 5%, the liberators, the ones who teach the truth, that man is God, the freedom, justice, and equality, like all the prophets taught. You have the 10% bloodsuckers of the poor, otherwise known as the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. Some people say Illuminati, that's an old term. And you have the 85%, who were easily led in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right. The Peachy self-method of hypnosis said it like this: 85% of the population at large is capable of being hypnotized from one degree to another. And not just about somebody waving a watch or a clock in front of you saying you're getting very sleepy. But no, hypnosis is through repetition. Hypnosis is through the commercials you watch on TV that make you feel like you want to go to Popeyes and get a chicken sandwich, or go get some unhealthy food that's going to make you sick, and have your cabinet full of kind of prescriptions. So the percentiles, 85%, 10%, and 5%, delineate what part of the population folks fall into. But the number 7 is symbolic of the 7 planes of energy, the 7 chakras, the 7 major continents. I can go on and on. But
Brother Shahid, I had a question. There's a lot of mythology. Like people from I grew up in Harlem, so I was very close to a lot of brothers that were in the 5% Nation. Learned a lot from the 5% Nation. Always give them respect, whether it was in the street, at a parliament, or going in high school. It was all up in Cardinal Hayes. And I always felt that they didn't get their proper due. People have an idea in their mind that y'all are just y'all are on the fringe of society. Y'all are like over there. That y'all just read the Quran, or you stand in your position on the corner all day. And I happen to know like a brother named Malik, a good friend. You know Malik from Syracuse, Brooklyn, went to Brooklyn Tech, brilliant engineer. He was the head of the project. Rikers Island, people were dying in Rikers Island because there was so much heat. And they didn't have proper ventilation and air conditioning. He headed the project that fixed that problem.
Okay.
Right? Brilliant. Could you help people understand all of the different professions? You hinted at it. You said education, engineering, that you see gods and earths involved in. So they understand that you're real people, working amongst the people.
Well, I'm going to tell it to you like this. Do you remember the movie The Spook Who Sat by the Door?
Yes, sir.
Well, in the revolution, some of us are not seen. Some of us are invisible, per se. There was a book called The Invisible Man. Some of us could be right up in your face and you don't really know who we are. We have a job to do. And
right.
I will tell it to you like this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I once heard him say this. He said, the angels are in the mosque. They're there, but you just can't see them. And he said, it's not that they're invisible, but you just don't know who they are. And you don't know what their job is. Remember Clark Kent, Superman? I mean, the Caucasian man's trying to tell you too now.
That's right.
Clark Kent, Peter Parker is otherwise known as Spider-Man. The Hulk is Doc Bruce Banner, belted by Gamma Rays. Come on, man. I could go on and on. But it's not that they got split personalities, but that there are levels to this game called life. And that the 5% are like that. Like some of us, you know who they are. Some of us you don't know. It could be the president. I'm not saying Joe Biden, but
right. That would be funny.
No disrespect. Because we respect in Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, respect all those in authority as long as it doesn't conflict with your religion. But just to add a little levity, but they were saying that at one point when President Obama was president, he was trying to say he's a 5%er. It did come out that he had met with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, out of respect, didn't show that picture that they took because you know how things were at that time. But we're all the 5%. Those of us in the Nation of Islam, we're all over the place and have jobs to do. What is the job? To deliver the 20 to 40 million to the Lamb of God, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What? Not just to say, hey, Johnny, this is Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Hey, man, how you doing? You got some food? No. It's the mindset. Because when you have a certain mindset and we can elevate your mind, you will help us clean society up. You will help us clean the hood up. You will help us take technology. Think about this, man. We still riding around like dinosaurs in a car, putting gas in the car. When you got the mother plane, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught about, that's a half mile by half mile square with 1,500 baby planes on it. They call them UFOs. The government just came out the other day and said, you know what, it does exist. They actually trying to borrow some of the technology, but is it in your car, brother? I'm still using gas. I'm not using electricity yet, but even electric cars are limited. But what if you had a car that pulled electromagnetic energy from the atmosphere? What would that do? That would impact the economy. That would change the economy around if our cars begin to ride on water or pure air or things of that nature. But this is why certain things are kept a secret, because there's a status quo in society that certain folks are trying to maintain. But it's our job to bust that up. Even our judicial system is dated and it's twisted, it's slanted. It's not in favor of us, if you see what I'm pointing to, right? It's the other folk, and we got my frat brother, attorney Crump, and other wise attorneys that will help to turn that around. But in all fields of endeavor, whoever's listening to me, let's keep this very real. Number one, the 5% are very important. I beg I petition you to respect the 5%. That we're not some gang or street organization. I think folks they're seeing it now. They're like, wow, man, I just thought that was a phase that brother was going through. No. But this is why I started to write books and do lecture circuit back in the day, because I wanted people to see that we are not just Joe Blow or just rappers. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, brother, again, time, I know the clock is ticking, and I don't know if there are any other questions, anybody wants to know anything. I definitely want to come back. I want to thank you again for bringing me on, and this is such an important topic. I know I'm not touching everything. I know I'm not mentioning everybody's name that needs to be mentioned. Old Dirty Bastard was a 5%. His righteous name was Asan Unique. He was the cousin of RZA and the brother of Papa Wu. There's so much.
Papa Wu was his biological?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. A lot of interesting connections here, man.
Brother, when you look at it, you would be amazed. Again, 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, that has Power. Look at the name of his show. It's called Power. It's based on his name, 50 Cent. But if you don't know mathematics, you won't know that he's saying his name over again. And you won't know that he's referring to the original 50 Cent, Shamik. And some of the characters within the show are based on people from South Jamaica. You wouldn't know unless you know. If you know, you know. If you don't, but we're letting you know today. That's the thing. We're not just saying, if you know, you know, you don't know. We are sharing the information with you. Nas, one of the most lyrically blessed MCs that ever did it, 5% influence, and he's seeking. Even Sean Puffy Combs or Diddy or P. Diddy, or I think he calls himself Brother Love now. He's trying to be a 5%. He's trying to be one of the 5%.
Let me ask you as one last question, Brother Shahid, and then we definitely have to bring you back.
Okay.
It seems to me that the 5%ers, as most people call the 5%ers, that's kind of an abbreviation, but it seems to me that not only did they bring a lyricism and a cleverness to the hip hop game, but they brought a message that was different. It was a messaging they brought. Rakim was talking about follow the leader, talking about leadership and talking about the universe and how the planets look as you go away from through the different atmospheric realms. And people like Nas, they had some gangsterism in it too, but they were talking about raising people up, protecting the kids, building family, going to school, building business. I think that's something that I don't think they get a lot of credit for. Not just how they said it, but what they actually said was really light years ahead of a lot of other people.
Well,
what's your thoughts on that?
Yes, the gods in hip hop helped to create a whole stream of revenue. Hip hop today is worth billions of dollars. You actually have a billionaire. Jay-Z is a billionaire. And he's righteous. And that, the Prophet Muhammad said it like this. There are 3 most hated men in the world. One is a man who has knowledge. He freely gives it to people. Another is a man who was wealthy and he gives it to the people. Jay-Z is a mixture of the two. He's wealthy and he's a man who has knowledge. And the other one is the man who the Holy Quran was revealed to, was the Prophet Muhammad. And so when you have enlightened people who try and gift their knowledge to the world, well, that is our job, to lighten the world. I don't know if you saw this article in the Final Call that I did on the concert that was at Yankee Stadium that had 60,000 people. Nas's company, Mass Appeal, did that, and Derek Jeter contributed to that. Let's continue to support the culture of hip hop. There was a concert that was supposed to happen at National Stadium next weekend, but I just learned last night because ticket sales are too low. they had to cancel it. But initially, the concert was supposed to be on the 6th or the 7th, but because the government was about to shut down, they had to cancel and they postponed it to the 28th. So they'll probably still do it. But please, let us support the culture. Let us support the Final Call newspaper. As the FOI, I can't be on here without saying this. Please support the Final Call newspaper and the FOI out there on the streets supporting that. Please support the 5% newspaper. It's no longer the Word that is out there. This is an old 5% newspaper, but there's a newspaper called the 5%er that is out there. Please support us. Please support Brother IJ's program. If you have a Cash App or something, brother, that you posted, y'all can tap in, man, and just contribute. We need to support our people. We need to establish our own media. CNN and all that stuff is nice, but we need to big up the Final Call and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Gods and Earths. That's black media. Hip hop is the black CNN, as Chuck D said. It's not if a maybe, it's a reality. And on that note, I want to thank all of you who stayed in there, hung in here with me screaming in your face. Probably blew up your eardrums. But seriously, and on a closing note, I want to thank my mother. Here's a picture of my mother. And that first name is Doris, and that's my father and my oldest sister. My father passed away in 1968, but my mother will be 90 years old in January.
Wow.
And man, that's a blessing. I want to thank my who put up with me as much as I move around. My son, Dakare, my oldest daughter, Jamila, my youngest daughter, Atil, who is finishing up med school, my grandchildren, my son's 2 children, Niara and Wasir, my sisters, just everybody. I mean, because, brother, it's all about family. It's all about loving one another and forgiving. I'm learning how to do that more and more. None of us are perfect, right? We all working make this thing happen. I want to shout out all my Syracuse crew, man. All my frat brothers, the Noops that I'm tight with, Trev, Kip, Rich Mayer, the Alphas, Darryl Bell, who used to play Ron on Different World. Talked to him recently. My man Cliff, who hung in there with, again, y'all rap with Cliff. He's a legend within his own time, and he has a story to tell. I'll let him tell his story. But I just want to thank everybody out there that viewed this and anybody who will view this. Just know that the 5%, we are an influence in hip hop. We are the pioneers. Professor Griffith's a 5%. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Come from the realm of the 5%. And again, man, I don't think we say this enough about Freedom. A lot of people overlook Freedom Williams, CNC Music Factory.
Wow, I didn't know that. I would have never known that.
Yeah, house music, man. The Gods have an influence in house music, man. I mean, there are guys out there that actually sing, that are in R&B. I mean, it's real out here, man. It's real, brother.
Brother Shahid, before you go, can we get 2 quick questions in?
Sure.
Okay, Brother Darryl says he's thanking you for the education. He says, in regard to hip hop, how do you feel about what this generation is doing with today's music? Is it where you'd like it to be? And if not, who or what do you think should improve?
It's a great question. And I believe that might be my cousin Darryl, man, who I love very much. He was also my frat brother. Hip hop, by Allah's permission, God's permission, is where it is. And we have to look at it with a keen eye to understand the why. Why are certain aspects of hip hop so derogatory? I touched on it a little bit when I talked about the secret meeting in hip hop and how they wanted to turn hip hop around because the oppressors felt that it was too conscious and spreading too much light, and they would prefer darkness because, like BlackRock, who have an investment in the banking structure of America, but also the global banking structure and the prison system, would like that pipeline to continue. And the only way to continue to put numbers into the private prison institutions, which are owned by people and they make money off of them, is to use the airwaves to guide our youth into the prisons. And how do you do that? Well, the lyrics can't be too positive. You got to dumb it down. Professor Griff calls it low chakra music. But basically, you can't be too educated if you are headed to prison, right? You have to be tricked and hoodwinked, like Malcolm X said. So every day in America is Halloween. They want you to put your costume on, to prison, head to prison or to the graveyard, right? That is not what we want. And so hip hop is where it is because it took time for them to poison the airwaves. And this is in your Bible, the war in the heavens. The war in the heavens is for your mind. It's a battle going on right now. This is a part of the battle right now. I'm fighting to keep your mind right. But there are those of us who want your mind to be wrong so that you can, be twisted. And so I don't like to blast the those in the hip hop culture who I cracked a joke on Sister Sexy Red or whatever, but just a little levity. But who knows who that sister is going to be tomorrow? And Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells us in the spirit of atonement and reconciliation that we can point out the wrong, somebody can acknowledge the wrong, but the goal is to form a perfect union, and you can only do that through reconciliation and the whole 8-step process of atonement, which was laid out at the Million Man March by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so with that being said, I think we have a duty to reach out to our young brothers and sisters in hip hop and try to guide them, because you don't know who they're going to be tomorrow, man. They're young right now and a little twisted. Some of them. Kendrick Lamar isn't twisted. J. Cole isn't twisted. These are some of our young brothers in hip hop that are doing. Joey Badass is not twisted. I can do. They're maybe not as highlighted as some of the other young rappers. The mumble rappers, they call them mumble rappers. It's like, man, what is this brother saying?
Right.
You have to understand. But there was another question. You said there was another question.
Yes, sir. And also, family, Billy and Brother Shahid, there was a brother named Malcolm Little who was running around trying to be a criminal in Harlem and Boston, and look what he turned out to be. There's a brother named Louis X, before that, Walcott, I think was his name, he was a singer and entertainer. Right? So you don't know where people are going to end up, and that's a beautiful point, Brother Shahid.
He had a joint in his hat. He said he had a joint rolled up in his hat, and they told him he couldn't bring it in. I mean, look at where he is now, right?
That's right.
So
now the question, Brother Shahid, is from my lovely and intelligent queen. She asked, I think she's referring to the 5% Nation, does it have like rites of passage programs or something that caters specifically to the young people in the community, to your knowledge?
Of course. Born Justice, who is based out of Pelon, the Bronx, has a program called Positive Seeds or something like that. But I know that he spent some time at the Street Academy. For those who are in New York City, in the Harlem area, you could probably go by the law school and talk to Born Justice or some of the guards over there. Of course, you also you have Muhammad's Mosque number 7 is over there on Lenox Avenue. Matter of fact, it's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Way now. But
right, you renamed it.
If you tap into the parliaments that happen around the country the last Sunday of every month, sometime they change the date or whatever, they can tell you in your respective zone, because the Gods and Earths, we have it organized. It's in certain zones around the country, like Philly. They may have something going on there, but they're online. You can find them on Instagram. But this is one thing I want to ask of our young brothers and sisters out there. Keep your mind open and let's alleviate the confusion. And I want to say this in closing, very important, and I want to show this picture from the Million Man Marches on the recent copy of the Final Call. We had 2 million brothers out there, nearly 2 million, 1.8 million out there on the National Mall of all different influences, 5%, Zulu Nation, FOI, Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciples, rappers from the East Coast, rappers from the West Coast. The goal is unity. The goal is for us to work together for a common cause. Our youth need help. Our youth who want to go to college need scholarship money. Our black fraternities and sororities need to get together and start putting some more money up to help fuel our brothers and sisters' college careers. College costs more now. Everything costs money in this world, and we need to work together. Those rappers, those 5%ers among the rap industry who have some paper, continue to do what you do. Nas is doing some positive things. Jay-Z is doing some positive things as far as helping our young brothers and sisters. Let us make ourselves available to help our young and our elderly people, because our elderly people who have lived a long time don't necessarily have the same income that they had when they were younger. So let's help one another. Let's love one another and respect one another, and stop disrespecting one another just because of a label.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that, Brother Shahid. Reminding us of why we're here. When you get to be 55 and middle age like me or Shahid or other people, sometimes you go to a room and you forget, damn, why did I come to the kitchen? Did that ever happen to you? You forget why you're there. Let us not forget why we're here, family. We're not here just for self and to eat and have nice things. We're here to bring light and education and empowerment to other people, particularly our people. Yes. Let us not forget that. Very important. Yes. Very important. Brother Shahid, man, it's been a blessing. Yeah. It's been a real good jewels. Some jewels you dropped in, my brother.
I had a great time, man, and we have to do this again. But let us remember the Father. Let us not forget the FBI dossier that Brother Dr. Khaled spoke about one time. He said that one of the things that the oppressor does not want is for the youth to marry on to the mother-father organization. They do not want unity, brother. So with those of us who have knowledge and we blowing that horn, man, sounding that trumpet over the airways through hip hop, let us continue to do it, but let us do it together. Let us support our elders in hip hop like Fly Tie Williams. He needs a biopic done on himself to tell his story. He put Roxanne Shante on the map. MC Shan, you know, he gave Lou Hobbs his name, street brother from out of New York, gave him the name Lou. You know, let us continue to do the many things that we need to do to move this culture forward. Russell Simmons is now in Bali. He's you know, he's one of the godfathers in hip hop back in the day, but you know, some things happen. He's overseas, man. I mean, we got to turn this thing around before it's too late.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Brother Shahid, we thank you. Man, we know, I already know from the buzz in the chat room here that we're gonna have to bring you back to get some more information. You know, this hip hop and 5%, that's law, that's big, broad stuff going on. So we're gonna have more sessions, you know what I mean, to get more information out. But we thank you, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
You've been about that work for a long. I knew you since '86, and since I knew you were about that work. Hey, I'm proud to say that. Since I knew you was talking this.
Thank you, brother. Reflection of yourself. Reflection of yourself, man. And my son's Chuck Winder doing his thing.
Yes, sir.
You know, Chuck Revolutionary. My other son's
Chuck
Christian. You know, everybody's doing their thing, brother.
Yes, sir.
Peace
so with that said, I'm going to get ready to close this show. I want to remind you all a few things. Don't be sideline spectators. Everybody could choose a lane. There's several ways to help our people, several ways to contribute. You can join an organization. You can financially support an organization. You can share people's information of their events. without them having to ask you. You can attend events. You can bring people to events. You can start your own organization. There's so many ways you can get down. You can educate. You can be a healer. Our people need spiritual healing and physical healing and healing with our mental health. We need so many things. So don't feel that because this person's so good at that you got to do what they do, or you got to copy what they do. Find out what you're here to do. Choose your lane and run as hard and fast as you can. And then teach somebody else so that when you fall or when you transition, somebody else will get that baton and keep running with you, family. One thing I'd like to ask before we close, please hit the subscribe button, family. The more subscribers we have, that's the way this social media thing works. The more subscribers we have, the more ability we have to do more things and to reach more people, right? So please help us by clicking that subscribe button. Let other people know you like the video. Share the link, like, comment, or what have you. We are definitely coming back with our brother Shahid Allah. We'll let you know when. And we want to thank him and thank all of you for a really positive broadcast, an informative broadcast. With that said, family, I want to thank you. Peace and Black Power. Remember, no matter what anyone else says, if we study, if we organize, if we believe, if we believe in ourselves, we will win. It's not over until we win. Forget the fat lady. It ain't over until we win.
Come on.
We will win, family.
You better leave that fat lady alone, man.
Brother Shahid. All right. Hey, brother, man. Love you, brother. We're going to be in touch and have you back.
All right, brother. Peace.
And remember, we're going to pick sometime maybe when it gets warm again. Man, go through Harlem. We go through the Allah school.
Yes.
Live in the flesh and show people the school and some of the elders teaching and stuff. That'll be hot.
I got you, brother. I got you. Peace.
Peace, brother. Peace, family. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.